Good morning, one and all. Myself, Adarsh. I'm the convener of Kerala Blockchain Academy. So, a very warm welcome to one and all. We will start the session soon. So, before starting the session, I would like to invite the guest of today's session, my friend Mohamed Youssef. So, hope some of you will be already familiar with Mohamed. Mohamed is currently working as a senior software engineer and blockchain architect at SAP Singapore, and he is one of the famous financial consultants SAP with over 12 plus years of experience in SAP. And he have been working in the blockchain domain, specifically in the cryptocurrency and blockchain domain for the past many years. In fact, I know him for, I think, past 2 to 3 years. And he is good in Hyperledger, Fabric, Quorum, Ethereum, the Bitcoin protocol, and all those kinds of advanced technologies are there. So, in fact, it is a pleasure for us to welcome Mohamed Youssef for this wonderful session on blockchain governance. Over to you, Mohamed. You can start the presentation.
Thanks a lot for your kind introduction, and hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon. Yeah, I'm quite happy to see this much actually of interest in the blockchain. I didn't really expect this, but it's quite good. I wanted to talk actually about governance. I think it's one of the important topics in the blockchain networks. And it is also one of the topics why blockchain networks usually do not work. So it is important, yet it is the most neglected, I would say. First, I wanted to say something, define a blockchain as an economy, a small economy, which is written in code. And this gives us some kind of some sense of what a blockchain is. It's a business network, or it's a network that will facilitate certain transactions, and they mostly would have economic value to the parties involved in these transactions, whether there is a supply and demand, production, either it's a monetary transaction, but there has to be some kind of economic value to it. And here we see, yeah, so it's a network, it's a platform that is going to connect buyers, sellers, and innovation brokers who actually build applications on top of these transactions or on top of the protocol layer to facilitate the creation of value, similar to our economies or the economies that we have in our day-to-day life where we interact with. Yeah. There are marketplaces, there will be some rules to make some decisions, and it is very important to have the right structure for this economy to grow and prosper. Otherwise, it will not succeed. When we want to design a blockchain network, there will be a few key pillars or key areas that has to be taken into consideration. On top of the technical parts, usually when there is a blockchain discussion going on, whether it's Hyperledger, Bitcoin, Corda, or whatever the protocol, most of the discussion is actually around the technology, around the smart contract, or how we are going to code this, are we going to code that. But this is not the most important piece. There are different pieces that has to fit together to make a successful network. Otherwise, again, it won't work. You see here we have the financial model or the metrics for this network to succeed. Like, what are the cost of investments, valuations for this network? Is it actually going to bring some kind of rewards? What is the funding model? So these points has to be taken into consideration. And there is, as a platform itself, how the data is going to be exchanged with each other or between the parties. If there is a buy and sell transaction is going to happen, how the price is going to be decided, how the terms are going to be negotiated between the buyers and sellers. Do they know each other, or it's anonymous? Yeah. So this has to be taken when you are or when someone is designing the network. And then what is the value proposition? What is the use case, the customers? What is the future roadmap? How are we going to allow this network to organically scale and grow without some organization pushing it artificially or enforcing or twisting arms for other business partners or other players to come on board. This has to be taken into consideration as well. And then there is a smart contract, which is more or less business logic, if you want to say, or it's technology piece or the program which is running on top of the protocol to facilitate these interactions. And one of the important pieces is the governance. And you see, I put it in the middle because it touches actually all of these other areas. Who are the participants? What are the proposals to upgrades, for example, to onboard the participant, to allow the participant to leave? What type of decisions are going to be taken and how they are going to be taken? And our focus will be on the governance today. Before we delve into the governance, we want to differentiate between the governance and the operational structure. What do we mean by them? Yeah. So simply put, operational structure are the rules that decide on our interactions, but they are known. They are known upfront, and we agreed to it so that we are able to form a law or maybe write it in a program or put it into some kind of a systematic formula or something, or in a formula, right? So these are the operational structure. But governance is something that is not covered by the known day-to-day operations. It is something that is unknown, and we want to know how we are going to agree or solve these unknowns. Yeah, so it's a mechanism or the technique that will allow us to update or change the operational rules or the known rules. So basically the edge cases, if they were not foreseen before and they came into existence due to the dynamic environment that we live in, whether because of a law, whether because we need to upgrade the software, whether because some business partners decided to leave, or new business partner decided to onboard, or maybe because there is a new law which came into existence and it was not there before. So this is the mechanism that we will be able to reach an agreement on these kind of unknowns. Yeah, and some other people would view it more abstractly or more generally, that it's a collaboration of the stakeholders of the network to meet their interests and align on their goals, eventually to achieve what they want to achieve out of this network, which is also shared between them. So this is what I mean by a governance. Yeah, it is how to reach a decision or an agreement on something that was not foreseen before, in the context definitely of blockchain. Yeah. There will be a lot of aspects that the governance has to take care of, and these aspects are going to range from the technology to law to the I don't know, the protocol, the internet. So we will look at these. This is the kind of infrastructure that blockchain applications and blockchain networks usually have. We have the internet as a foundation, and then the blockchain protocol, which runs on top of the internet. You can think of it also as a TCP/IP, which is responsible for routing the internet packets, yeah, on top of the wires that we have today. And then we have the decentralized applications, which are written using smart contracts, or maybe whatever the name, chain codes in an Hyperledger Fabric, or there will be different names, but it's basically some applications which are going to reside on the different nodes, and they will perform operations independently, and they have to agree on the same output to reach the consensus. And then we have the centralized applications in the context of the enterprise. Usually it's ERP systems. So if an enterprise already using a system of record like SAP, for example, and they want to connect to a blockchain network to do business transactions, then they need to make sure that the values coming out of their centralized system or ERP and the values going in will adapt to the outcome of the decentralized network. So this is a little bit controversial, because I would say the decentralized network usually they don't have a final result or final consensus. It's eventual consensus. But in a centralized application, if you input something, you expect to get the same output immediately. In decentralized application, it will take some time maybe to reach this consensus. And it also may change if there is an attack on the network or if there was some upgrades or something. So this has to be taken into consideration when you are designing the and integrating into a blockchain network. Let's talk about each one. So internet is kind of a foundation of everything, or all our interactions in the cyberspace. And one of the key important characteristics of the internet is the net neutrality. And net neutrality means that if you are sending a packet or if you are sending something on the internet, it should or it will be able to reach the desired destination. If there is any censorship, the packets will be able to route around or walk around or go around this censorship or blockage and still reach the destination. And the internet does not differentiate between someone who is rich, someone who is not rich. If you are able to connect to the internet, you are still able to communicate. There should not be periodization. The internet doesn't know. It's neutral to everyone. So this is one of the key important areas of the internet. But what happened or what can happen is that the ISPs or the internet service providers, due to regulations or due to other interest or maybe some other parts would influence them to discriminate against certain protocols. So if you are designing a blockchain network and you decided to go with a protocol or you want to build an application on top of a protocol, you have to take this into consideration. Will my protocol or is my protocol vulnerable to discrimination by ISPs, for example? And what will I do in this case? Can they deprioritize the traffic? Can they block the traffic? What will I do? Because this is going to impact the whole network because it's on the foundation. And usually it's a good practice if you are into this business network, blockchain business network, or if you are having a network, you should keep close discussions with regulators, with ISP, to motivate them and to advocate for the net neutrality of the internet. And this is just one of the aspects that we would consider when we are making our design. On the blockchain layer, there are different protocols, as we all know. There is Hyperledger, Corda, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Quorum. There will be hundreds of protocols. So how do we choose the protocol? We need to consider a lot of factors. Who is actually behind the development of the protocol? What are the rules? How they are going to do the upgrade of the protocol? I'm not talking about your business application. I'm talking about the actual protocol, like how they are going to move from version 1 to version 2. What are the use cases that the protocol was designed to support? And what is the future development of the protocol? What's the future roadmap? If the protocol I don't want to mention names, but there are some protocols who were mainly motivated or driven by very small community or maybe single organizations, and after some time they die. And if you have invested in these protocols or started to build application using these protocols, you will find yourself alone, and your investment will not go anywhere because there's no much community. So this is a factor to also consider. And then on the decentralized application level, this is basically the dApps or the business logic written using a smart contract. The business logic, yeah, which is going to run certain, which is going to enable certain activities to happen. Who is going actually to write this application or this smart contract? Are you going to use the core functionality of the smart contract language, or are you going to rely on a third-party library? Who is responsible about this third-party library? Should you trust them? Should you keep engaging with them? What will happen if there is a bug in their library? Is it going to affect the outcome of your smart contract? This is all has to be also taken into consideration. And what will happen, for example, to the framework or the proxy contract or the third-party library, if there is also a change that is introduced to the blockchain layer, like what we had before in the Ethereum DAO. Yes, they had to fork, they had to make some changes to the blockchain state. What will happen to your smart contract? What will happen to your business application? This is very, very important to take into consideration. And then eventually the centralized applications, this is not always the case. This is more for enterprise if they have certain integrations with their existing IT infrastructure. How is it going to happen? Are they going to rely? How they are going to rely on data which is coming from a decentralized network, whether it is a permission network or whether it's an open public blockchain network. Here, asymmetries of governance. So this is basically how the different governance approaches are applied. Yeah, we will just try to look at the different types of governance that we can apply to the layers that we saw before. So we have governance, something called governance by the infrastructure, and something called governance of the infrastructure. These are two different types. One of them, which is governed by the infrastructure, are the rules, are the internal rules to the community who is running the network, for example. Governance of the infrastructure are the rules that is imposed on the network, maybe by a third party like a regulator or an ISP, because they are going to affect also your network state. So here is more detailed definition. So the governance by the infrastructure, it's hard-coded rules, which could be endogenous within the community itself. How is this going to happen? Yeah, this can be also called an on-chain governance. So if there are some rules and we want to encode them into the blockchain, we call it on-chain governance. And if there is a need to upgrade or change these rules, the decisions are also going to be taken on the chain. We don't need to rely on some discussions happening outside. And there are some protocols which are leveraging this, like Bitcoin or Tezos, for example. It allows the participant, maybe Bitcoin is not the right protocol, but Tezos for sure is the right protocol, which tries to allow the participants to agree on how to change the rules of the network on the network itself, or using the network itself, yeah, using the code. And there is a off-chain, which is the governance of the infrastructure. It's it's actually all the forces which are applied to the platform or the network, which can influence the development. So if there is a company or if there is a certain community or geography is pushing for a development direction or a certain roadmap or feature of the protocol, this is governance outside of the network, and this is off-chain governance. And here we have some kind of a comparison of the chain governance, on-chain governance. So of the chain, the rules which are taking or decided based on the social interactions. We can have meeting to decide on how to take decision on a certain issue that was not foreseen before. On the chain governance, they are usually encoded into the network. The advantage of the off-chain governance is that they are more flexible. They are unstructured. They can respond more dynamically to certain conditions which were not unexpected before. But on the other side, they are not that much auditable. They are not verifiable. So if we are having a meeting and we are just 5 out of 10, then we may reach some kind of an outcome, but then someone will go and change or say that they didn't agree or they did not participate in this meeting. There is no way to verify it on the network. But on the chain governance or any change that can happen on the network can be clearly or easily auditable and verified mathematically. On the off-chain governance, there will be a lot of workarounds. Users can sidestep the rules. They can bypass it. They can use. They can twist arms. They can use their political influence to push for their interest. On the chain governance is definitely hard to sidestep because the rules are already encoded in the network, so no one really can bypass it. Some challenges. So for the decisions which can be taken via the consensus protocol, like proof of work or proof of stake, people can vote to achieve this kind of governance or to reach some kind of a rule or to reach a decision, to reach or conclude a decision. But the voting weight is going to be decided based on how many stakes do they have in the network. So if there is an entity, if there is an exchange, for example, which controls a lot of tokens on the network or a lot of stake voting power on the network, they can influence the direction of the decision. And we call this a plutocracy or ruling by the wealthiest, which is not very good actually. Then the systems are subject to manipulation. So if by the off-chain governance. So as I said, there can be some political agreements to align certain parties' incentive against the other parties on the network. And this is something also we want to keep transparent. Yeah, some parties can promote their interest for sure. On-chain governance is not immune. What do we mean by this? Yeah, so networks can be attacked, and there can be some influence if the on-chain governance is not, if the code or if the program which is enforcing the on-chain governance have some bug. And we saw this on the DAO, for example, when there was a bug. DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization. So this was a smart contract basically written on the Ethereum blockchain to simulate how an organization or a VC can run autonomously without a board of director, using the inputs from the owners of the contract, which is actually anyone who has a token locked in the DAO. They could vote on a decision using their token, and then the outcome of the the voting is going to enforce how the VC, for example, or the contract is going to invest in certain projects. But there was a bug, and because there was no way for the owners of the contract to agree or to revoke maybe or influence the output of the contract. Because of this bug, there had to be a fork on the whole Ethereum network to return the money, or to, which was quite known at this time. This is one of the on-chain issues. Some conclusion and recommendation. I think the best way to move forward, especially for enterprise blockchain, is to combine both on-chain and off-chain governance. So certain rules can be put on the network or coded into the network, and certain rules has to be taken outside of the network. On the Ethereum, they have adapted a certain approach where the Ethereum Foundation works as a neutral entity which can raise a flag, and then the rest of the Ethereum community would watch this flag, a social flag, or they can communicate this in a way or another through the social media, or maybe through meetings. And then the rest of the network, miners or the participant of the Ethereum, the developers, they can make sense of this flag, and then still can decide on what they want. So it works as a guiding, maybe a guiding light or something. Some on-chain rules can definitely be externalized, which allow auditing, which allow changing of the outcome if there is a hack or unexpected bug. And then we have to design also our network to isolate weakness. So if we should not really rely on a network or a protocol should not rely on a protocol that is not very mature or not popular or have a small development community, something that we should take into consideration. And what will happen, for example, if a part of the network goes down due to maybe state attack or something. So this is something that has to be taken into consideration.
Hi, Mohamed.
Hi.
This is Praveen. I hope I am audible.
Yes, you are.
Just out of curiosity, I would like to know how artificial intelligence can power these DAOs that you are mentioning about. So in future, we might see some organizations that actually run by these DAOs, and that would even be powered by AI as well, right? So I would like to know what are your thoughts on that front.
So to be honest with you, so the DAOs are basically smart contracts or logic which is running autonomously on the network. This is what the DAO was. Yeah, it was developed to reach some decision based on the owner or the shareholders of the DAO voting. Yeah, votes. Today, the AI algorithms cannot really run on the network. This is not possible, I would say, but they can run outside of the network, yeah. And then the input of these algorithms or the input of the AI programs can be inputted, can be fed into the DAO. But this actually also poses other risk, because who is going to trust the input? So you are going to control an AI program or an AI algorithm, for example, and you run it and you feed the input to the contract or the program running on the network. You only feed the input to the contract running on your node or on your server, as to say, yeah, if I want to simplify. But what about the other participants? So this input has to be the same for all the contracts running on all the nodes to be able to have the same output, and then to allow the network to reach a consensus. I think it is not yet achievable, to be honest, on my opinion. There are some techniques using something called oracles, which are trusted data sources, which will feed in data to the smart contracts. But right now, I don't think they are using AI for these oracles or for these data sources. So it's more simple data like currency exchange rates and so on. So it maybe have a potential, but I don't see it happening today. If this is
Okay. Yeah, I understood, Mohammed. Understood.
Yes.
Thank you for
Yes. If you are really talking from the DAO, there is another. There are other use cases, yeah. So where AI can also work with blockchain, maybe in cybersecurity. So AI is heavily now tried into detecting.
Like you said, it actually requires a lot of resources, and we can't actually deal those thing within on chain, and we have to actually take that outside of the chain, like you said, in a server or somewhere, and the question of understandable the data integrity and
Yes.
the problems that arise with that.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, the question from Ritik is like, sir, I'm a student currently in third year and I want to learn Hyperledger Fabric, but I find it difficult to find good resource other than documentation. So can you suggest
Yeah, so
something?
actually,
Yeah.
usually it's the official documentation provided by the community, and then you will have to engage. So I had to engage with the community in. They have a Rocket chat, and read or go to GitHub and starting asking question on the mail. They have an official mail list, distribution list, so people are quite interactive there. But it's not yet organized in a easily digestible way, I would say.
And another question from Hendrik regarding net neutrality. Do you see the danger that blockchains will have their roots in China?
So I actually didn't want to mention China, but yeah. So actually, so we know about China. They have the Great Firewall, and this is why I mentioned about net neutrality. Yeah. So when you are designing a system, we have to take this into consideration, whether the majority of our network is going to be on China, outside of China, if it's going to be in China and there is or some other place, yeah, not really against China, but in some other place where they went down, yeah, for some reason. Will it make the network weak and vulnerable to attacks or not? So this is something that has to be taken into consideration.
Yeah, the next question, can both centralized and decentralized application for the same solution exist on a blockchain layer?
Can both centralized and decentralized application for the same solution? Yes, over a blockchain layer, it will only be decentralized application. A centralized application are going to be on your server, on your IT infrastructure, on your own cloud controlled environment, and they can talk to each other. That is the current state. Yes. But you cannot develop a centralized application on top of a decentralized network. It will be decentralized.
And I think one more question have come, like, is quantum computers a threat for blockchains?
Today, I think you are maybe asking the question from security aspect, whether the cryptographic algorithms are going to be weak against quantum computer attack, but I think this is not a threat today, and even for the next 10 years. And even if it becomes a threat, there are already known and available post-quantum resistant algorithms that can be used. So once this becomes a concern, the infrastructure is going to be upgraded to use these algorithms, and it should not be a problem. So the media has did something after Google research, but it is really a misinformation.
Okay, so the next question, the regulations have always struggled to keep up with advances in technology, and how far this can be a challenge for blockchain in governance.
Yes, that is actually true. So usually regulators are quite slow, and they are not able to keep up with how the technology moves. But it will take some time. Also for the technology to stabilize, because with every release or with a few every maybe a few months, we see that there will be a hard fork to implement or remove certain functionalities of the protocols, and it changes also how the network is behaving and what kind of functionality features it can offer. Um, so it's still something that has to be solved. It will take some time. The technology is not 100% ready for mass adoption yet, so it is still evolving. So I think it's fine. It's acceptable. Yeah.
Yeah, there are a couple of questions like, okay, the next question is like, suggest some topics for a project. Like he is asking for some topics for projects. Otherwise,
Topics for projects. Maybe can you clarify a little bit?
yeah, I think he is a second year information security student, so he would like to
A diploma
do more
project
yeah,
of
different
the
projects.
specialization. So if you are looking for projects that can help you in your professional career into an enterprise or into a company or something, I would say look into the supply chain related use cases, IoT related use cases. These are very much focused by enterprises today. They have some potential, definitely. If you are looking for projects for fun or for learning or for staying on top of the technology or working on something very exciting, yeah, then you can look into Lightning Network or Payment Network, which is happening out, yeah, on the open public blockchains.
The next question is regarding how blockchain influences the payments landscape.
Oh, it's definitely influencing. So it will definitely bring the cost of transactions down. That is the first thing, actually, and it is already happening. Um, it will also allow peer-to-peer payments. So today, I see here in Singapore and a lot of other countries, they started to allow mobile payments from one to another. Without really having to use cash. Merchants started to allow payment using QR code, different applications. So it really changed also how we view payments and money. Yeah.
The next one is regarding the future of blockchain as a technology in India, and how do you see the blockchain integrating with the economy also?
I want to hear your opinion about the future in India,
Yeah.
because I don't know. It's very difficult for me, but from what I see there is quite a good interest. And I also know that the government is quite interested, and they are trying to stay on top of the technology updates or changes, and to see how they will regulate it. So it's definitely
Yeah,
happening.
exactly.
Yeah.
In fact, the idea of KB is also from the government side. Like government
Okay.
proposed, like we should have an academy for blockchain
Yes. Yes.
instead
So
of
it
that.
is
So
definitely
that's
happening. Yes.
yeah. And the next thing is regarding the blockchain in healthcare. I think
The
yeah, there are a
idea to
couple of questions.
implement the blockchain in healthcare, there are some projects going on I am aware of, but I think the protocols are more important to be able to support the privacy of data. Because in healthcare, you want also to be able to share your records only with certain parties, like your hospital, your doctor, and maybe you decide to revoke those permissions in the future. And maybe you don't want to share it, so you don't definitely want to share it with everyone. Yeah. So there are some protocols who are active to provide this kind of functionality. One of them is called Indy, Hyperledger Indy. It is not yet released. I'm not sure if it is on a state where it can go production. I don't think so, but it is interesting if you want to have a look into it.
So I think there are no more questions left in the chat. If there is any other questions, we can take. Otherwise, we can wind up the session.
I think yes, there are a few questions also on the
Yes.
yes. So one of the question is actually how blockchain can be applied to society, and how it will manage social contracts between government and industry. This is quite loaded question, I would say. It's quite yeah. So I want first to explain what's the social contract. Yeah, so social contract is a kind of a assumption of an agreement, hypothetical agreement or an actual agreement between members of an organization or organized society, which will govern how they are going to interact with each other, what are the responsibilities with duties. This is what am I supposed to do, what I am not supposed to do in our society. This is basically social contract. You can scale this down or up. So you can scale it to your local community, your city, your country, from a micro and macro scale, yeah. And it really decides how the interactions happen. So this philosophy or this social contracts operates in a society, and a society is where we live in, interact. It consists also from individuals like ourselves, for the private sector, which is basically the institution, which is being asked about, or the industries, and the state, which is the government, and the civil society, and they are the social fabric, or they are the one who like religious institutions, recreational institutions, charities, and they keep the social cohesion, and they allow us to express our opinions in groups. So this is a society. And the question again is, so I just wanted to set some background for the question for people who are not familiar with this, how the blockchain can manage or with its ability apply to social contract between government and the industry. Yeah. So the blockchain is a promise to empower individuals and allows them to reclaim their identity and control it, and also allows them to participate in a more active role from an individual point of view, in a more active role into the society. And those individuals are actually shareholders of institutions or companies. And using blockchains, those individuals can actively participate into the day-to-day decisions in these companies or institutions. This is not possible today because it's going to be expensive. The individuals are not motivated. They are just shareholders in companies, and they delegate the decisions to the CEO, the executive board of director, and the senior management, and so on. But if blockchain is implemented into the organization and allowed the interaction between the sub-organizations or the departments, and for the decisions allowed the shareholders or the individual to take those decisions, then I would say there will be a better outcome of the organization. So there will be definitely less corruption, and also everything is going to be tracked. Everything is going to be auditable. And this also allows government to have a much more tighter, I would say, view on what is happening into the institution or the company. So if there is, there will be less room for corruption. Corruption in different terms, yeah. If someone wants to take money to facilitate something, if they are going to harm the environment, if they are going to violate IP rights, different means. So, and based on this kind of interaction between the individuals into the institutions and government having a closer look, there also would be a possibility to come up with a reputation system for these institutions and for these societies, based on how they act. And if you are in a different society and you want to interact with them, then you can look into this reputation system and you can trust that this is a kind of an outcome. Do I really want to make business with them or not? This is one aspect of how it can change things. It will also, because it will offer the individual some kind of identity and also reputation for individuals. It would make it much easier for individual to work into, from one society to work in another society, from one country to work in another country without going there. It will make this kind of remote work much more easier. And when you are working and participating into organization, you are going to apply your social contract, which you are familiar with, into this new environment. So this is going also to change how the behavior of organizations is to be in the future. Yeah. I'm not sure if this give you some answer, Dr. Nick, or it's not. But yeah, we can definitely discuss. Another question is about DAG protocol and cryptocurrency. I'm sorry, I don't know really much about it. Another question is about the token economy written by Sherman, and she describes the blockchain as a governance technology and not a financial technology. And what do I think? So definitely blockchain is a governance technology. Financial, it was hyped or promoted, or even still promoted as a financial technology because of the cryptocurrency, and because also money is important. And without cryptocurrency, I don't think that we would have achieved that much interest or attracted much people and organization to invest and look into this space, which helped it a lot into the progression and the development of this space. But financial use cases are, or financial industry is not the only industry which blockchain cannot be applied to. As you said, there are sovereign identities, there are I don't know, healthcare use cases. There will be hundreds of use cases that blockchain have some potential to change or at least improve. But I haven't read the book. I have the book, but I haven't read it, Andy. So maybe we can have also another discussion about this into detail. Yeah. How to achieve parallel governance architecture in a blockchain? I don't understand this question. So maybe if you want to, and you are on the chat, you can maybe help us with more clarifications on it, or you elaborate more. Another question about the quantum supremacy and as a threat. I don't think so. This is not yet a threat. How blockchain governance come in the picture of permission blockchain like Hyperledger? So definitely it comes into the permission blockchain as well. So there are some permission protocols, I think Quorum, for example, which was developed, and after some time it changed it. I would say the organization or the entity which was pushing for the development is changed, and things are slowing down sometime, going fast sometime. I'm not sure if the community is big enough. Similar for Hyperledger Fabric is much more mature. It has a wider community, but it may change in the future. It may stay the same. It may improve. So these are all protocol-related aspects that you have to take into consideration when you are. What are the use cases that the protocol was designed to support from the beginning? Is it a generic protocol, or is it mainly made for tokens and cryptocurrency protocol, so that you will need to use another second layer maybe for other use cases to be supported? Are you active into the development roadmap or not? So, yeah. Scope of another question is scope of blockchain as a service. I also don't understand this question much, but maybe I can give it a try. Blockchain as a service simplifies, I would say, the deployment of blockchain networks, at least at this stage. So it honestly takes a lot of the technological hassle that organization would go through, especially for setting up permission network, and allows them to focus on the development of the smart contracts, the business logic, solving the political issues, the governance issues, figuring out what is the right incentive model, how they are going to grow the networks. It really abstracts all the technical complexity, but which is good to move forward. But it will not also discount the need for nodes which are going to be under the control of the organizations or of the entities who are participating on the network. Other question is, what is in post right now in blockchain? Is it mining, proof, or something else? I don't understand this question as well. Other one, should aspirant need formal experience in cryptography or programming? I don't think so. So I don't come from a computer science background per se, and I was working as a ABAP developer for SAP technical consultant for 12 years. You can definitely learn the math, the cryptography, and the programming if you are interested to go into the technical details. But there are other areas as well, so you can definitely go into the business of the blockchain, how you would form the network, what are the use cases, how you align the incentives of the parties of the chain, right, or on the discussions. These are quite interesting areas as well. There is also the security or the law, the regulation of the blockchain networks. How are the regulations are going to move forward? You can also be interested in these kind of areas of research, because it's all under research, or the economy aspects. I think this was the last question.
So Mohamed, one more question came up in chat right now. Hope you can see it from Dr. Smita. Concern the current pandemic where all higher education institutions are forced to move to remote online teaching. Do you think blockchain can play a role in education sector?
So definitely. So there are very good, or actually quite good use cases around blockchain education in terms of certificate authentication, or credential authentication and verification. So universities now are issuing the credentials or the certificates and keeping a stamp or a fingerprint on the blockchain. So if you are a remote candidate applying for a job into another country, you don't need to wait, or the organization doesn't need to wait to receive your credentials, and they don't need to really trust the paper document that you sent. They can easily verify your credentials on the blockchain if they know the organization which issued those credentials. And it's quite active, or it's production.
Yeah, I think she have added one more question, like, has SAP already got blockchain technology embedded, and if so, any specific to any module?
So SAP definitely has blockchain technology integrated into its modules. Supply chain, definitely, for sure, there are a lot of integrations happening and active. The financial modules as well. So it is already there, yes. And it's under development as well, so it's evolving.
So yeah, I think next question. Oh, it's for KB, I think. So like for the telemedicine sector. Yeah, in fact, we offer many training programs, so you can keep in touch with KB. You can mail to KB. I've already shared the link of our e-learning website. You can go and do the free to audit programs and get a basics about exactly this blockchain. And definitely you can keep in touch with us. We have some internship programs for the undergraduate students known as KB Innovation Clubs and all. Hope we can keep in touch. So any other queries? Okay, so
Thanks,
I
thanks
think
everyone. Yeah, I think it's quite a good set of questions, to be honest. Yeah.
yeah. So thank you so much, Mohammed, for sharing your valuable time with us. In fact, you agreed to deliver the session right when I asked for a session. So thank you so much. From a busy schedule, you find out time for KB. Hope we can collaborate more in the future sessions, and other endeavors of KB also. Anyway, it was really nice to have a unique session on blockchain governance, because we primarily have sessions on the developer and other perspectives, but this was fairly new to the candidates. So thank you so much. Thank you so much from the.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the great questions. I'm really very thrilled to see this much interest in general in blockchain. And yeah, I am very optimistic about the future, to be honest.